play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and welcome to this week's Sit and Talk, the show where we sit down and we talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. We take your questions from the previous week and we answer them if we want to. Depends on the question, of course. I usually get through most of the questions that you guys send me. And then we take turns, so next week will be Josh. If you want to leave him your questions, just go ahead and leave them in the comments below, whether it's on our site or YouTube. We will read them and then print them off and then do our best to answer them for you. And we've got some other fun treats for you today. We got the new Sisters of Battle Codex. We got a battle report here on YouTube. If you go to miniwargaming.com, you'll see everything. But we got a super good battle report. I can say that because we filmed it yesterday. I did it with Steve and his Iron Warriors, and it was awesome. Just one of the best games I've had in a long time. And then we're doing the first impression / review, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to call it a review when you just got the book, right? And that's in the Mini Wargaming Vault. So go to miniwargaming.com to check all that out. And I'll just jump right into the questions right here. So let's just get right into it. To Thesis. Hey Matt, those custom ships you made for BFG, Battlefield Gothic, for those that don't know what that is, look amazing. You did a great job. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed making them. Now that you're doing more parts of the hobby again, those skeletons, they still need paint, LOL. I don't think I'm ever going to touch those. I'm sorry. Just now, especially there's new skeletons out. I had just taken those home to paint them up maybe for like D&D or something like that. So I don't know how much I'll get back into the hobby. It was fun doing that, but it was like a short-term project, a beginning and an end, and that's it. I'm not even painting them because I kind of think I'd ruin them. And even if I wouldn't ruin them, I wouldn't enjoy painting them. So I have somebody else doing that. Same guy who made my custom Space Marine chapter, actually, bestoverallpainting.com. So I look forward to see how he manages to get those done. I was thinking, it makes me want to do something like Gorka Morka and then make my own little orc warband. Things where it's just basic, small. I'm not interested in assembling and painting up entire armies. So smaller skirmish-sized things is where it's at for me if I was really to get back into the hobbying aspect of it. But I'm living proof that you don't have to actually care about assembling, converting, and painting your miniatures in order to be in this hobby. Because I love this hobby. I love the lore, I love playing the game, I love collecting. I just don't enjoy assembling and painting, which is, I think that's odd from what I've seen in the community, but I don't think I'm alone. I think there's plenty of people, even the ones who do assemble and paint, who don't necessarily enjoy that aspect of it. They just kind of get through that so they can get to the gaming or so they can have the pieces on their shelf and look nice, like the collecting side of things. So it's a hobby. We do what we want with it, right? So nobody should feel ashamed for what they decide to do or not to do in a hobby. Like, let's just face it. This passion that we have is, whoops, the model's right in front of me. Still set up from the review. This passion that we have is really just for something that, in the end, and this is going to sound bad coming from me, is the thing itself is inconsequential. Now, the friendships we build and the social interaction we have and the joy it brings into our life is not inconsequential. But it could be this, it could be paintballing, it could be cooking, it could be knitting, it could be like this. Entertainment is an essential part of life. So I don't know why I'm going on the sidetrack. I'm just going to continue with the questions. Pellinor, hey Matt, really love the D&D Heroes of Herrenberg. When are we going to see season 3? Thanks for all the content it kept me sane throughout lockdown. Well, thank you. I'd love to do more D&D content. We're kind of swamped right now with all the new stuff that's been coming out. And to be honest, the D&D or the other role-playing stuff never really did very well. It doesn't mean that we'll never do it again because we love it so much. And so that's it's one of those things where, the biggest influence on whether we do content is how many vault signups it gets. And then the second biggest thing is how many views it gets. And then right in there with that is how much we love doing it. Because we'll do things that we don't absolutely love if it's getting lots of signups. But we'll also do things that we absolutely love if it gets mediocre signups. Because, it's also important that we keep morale up and do things that we enjoy so we can keep ourselves happy to be here and enthusiastic in our videos. So yeah, I'm not saying, I think we'll see role-playing again in the future, but not for a little while because we have a lot to do. And I have a baby coming in August, so life is busy, let's just put it that way, especially with lockdown. We think that would make it less busy, and it technically is appointment-wise, but kids being stuck at home just means time is eaten up really, really easily. Corn87, hi Matt, quick question. Why do you always use Tabletop World terrain scenery when they do not support your Silver Vault members with discounts? It is not required to support us with silver discounts. They actually sent us all that terrain for free. We painted it up, or had Adam from Greenleaf paint it up, but they sent us that terrain for free. And we'll buy terrain from companies and use it. And they don't have to have discounts. We just use what's cool on the table. Almost every battle report you say we can get discounts on most of the terrain you use, but in reality we can't because 90% of it is Tabletop World, GW, or custom made by Greenleaf Terrain. Yeah, maybe, I don't know if I don't think I usually say most of the stuff that you see. It's more like there's a ton of stuff in there. There's over 50 companies that give Silver Vault members discounts, and so there's the battle mats that you see. I'm pretty sure all of those you can get discounts. But there's lots of other things, hobby supplies, miniatures, other things in that list as well. Even 3D printed models, army painting services, coaching services, there's all sorts of fun stuff in there. If Tabletop World don't want to support your Vault members, you should stop promoting them and use other scenery. At the very least, have this conversation with them to encourage them to come on board with the Vault program. I think that's, and maybe this is because you don't know how it works behind the scenes, I think that's a little harsh. They sent us thousands of dollars worth of terrain for free. And that's supporting us big time. A lot of the terrain that you see us use, except for the custom built stuff by Greenleaf Terrain, is a lot of it is sent to us for free by these companies. And of course, because they want promotion. And they don't have the Vault member discount thing. That's, as much as that's been around for a long time, the amount that we've put into it to get all these companies, that's a relatively new thing. And so, yeah, maybe we can get them to get a discount to Vault members, but if they don't, that's okay. And we'll still use their terrain because it looks fantastic. And even if we bought it, I'd still use it. Like, we're trying to make nice looking battle reports first and foremost. That's our first priority. Whether or not a company decides to support us or whether we buy the terrain from them, to me that's inconsequential to whether we'll put it on the table. And we'll give them a shout out whether we buy it or they give it to us, because it's not just about promoting them, it's about also helping you guys know where to get that stuff. So if a terrain company wants to work with us, the easiest way to work with us is to send us free stuff, assuming, always talk to us first, because there's certain things where we're like, yeah, we won't really use that either because it just doesn't match the style of what we're looking for, or because we just don't like it. And we'll tell you that up front. We don't want low grade, crappy terrain, even if it's free. And so, we've had to turn down companies before. It's just like, that doesn't help. We've already got enough of that, and that yours is not even necessarily nice looking. So the Silver Vault discount thing is just icing on the cake. And like I said, we got over 50 companies in there, so there's already a ton, and we're still working on getting more all the time. And it's going to be like rotation. Some companies will drop out, and there's no requirement for anybody to do it. It's just it's a promotional thing, right? Like the idea is we get a benefit because it makes people want to sign up to the Vault, and they get a benefit because it's free promotion to them, because even you might think, well, that's a discount, so they're losing money. It's like, no, it's like, if you understand how business works, if I go somewhere where somebody has an audience of any size, and I can get new customers by giving them discounts, I am benefiting. Like, people will pay to do that. People will pay to advertise somewhere and give a discount. Like, you see billboards, right? They often will offer discounts to new customers, but they're paying for that billboard. It's not like the billboard company is like, oh, you're going to give a discount? Well, then we can put it up for free. Like a discount is just a way to get new customers, but it benefits a new customer because they get a discount. And so it's a three-way benefit. It's one of those, the world is not a sum zero place, right? If like more than one person can benefit from the same thing. So we get to benefit because it gets more people wanting to be in the Vault. Vault members get to benefit because they get discounts, and those companies benefit because they get new customers. So it's kind of doesn't matter if they give us free stuff as well. That's not a requirement. In fact, a lot of the companies in there, we don't have any of their stuff because it's not even terrain companies. It might be a hobby supply company, and we might not have any of their products. It's just, but we see it and we're like, yeah, those are good products, and they offer a 10% discount or a 15% or 20 or 5. It's like, sure, yeah, that's great. So that's how that program works. Zapphire, hey Matt, I've got my girlfriend into Age of Sigmar recently. She wants to start a Nighthaunt army. That's a fun army. She wants to know more about the world and her future army in particular. While I know 40k and Old World lore quite well, I have no idea what's going on in AOS. I know that you are an expert. Well, I don't know if I call myself an expert. I'm a professional. There's a difference. Experts know tons of stuff. Professionals are paid for what they know. I'm paid for what I know. Now, having said that, I have read a lot of Age of Sigmar novels, and I do enjoy the Age of Sigmar lore. So I think I probably know more than the average person in the world, but that's not very hard because a lot of people don't know anything about Age of Sigmar. So So yeah, so anyways, I know what you're about to ask, and I'll tell you in a second. Here's a question. Could you recommend a book or two about the world and Night Hunt for us to read? Thanks a lot. Soul Wars. Soul Wars. That's the book that came out for 2nd edition Age of Sigmar, and it's fantastic. And it's Night Hunt and Stormcast Eternals. But from the point of view of the Stormcast Eternals, but you get tons of Night Hunt, lore, and things about that. There's also a book I'm reading right now. Oh, what's it called? It's a Night Hunt one as well. About Lady Olander. I'm sorry, I don't remember it. Brain. I think it just came out recently. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Somebody can remember, they can put it in the comments below. But Soul Wars, for sure. Super well written. I think it was Josh Reynolds who wrote that one. And I really like him as an author. I remember whoever it was as the author, I really like that author. And it's just a good story. It has lots of ghosts. And it's obviously from the point of view of the good guys, the Stormcast Eternals, or whatever you want to call it. And it helps you learn more about the lore of Age of Sigmar. It helps you get a feel for the place. And it's all in the realm of death, too, as well. Arash Shiha. Hey, Matt, to love your guys' Age of Sigmar content. Can't wait to see 3rd edition and your team's take on it. Will we see perhaps more than usual Age of Sigmar content with the release of 3rd? I know there are rumors that Path to Glory is getting the Crusade treatment. You bet your bottom. At least at first, we're going to be putting out lots of 3rd edition content once we have everything to do that with. Yeah, lots of stuff. I've been preparing an Age of Sigmar narrative campaign, but then once I heard 3rd edition was coming out and that it has new campaign rules or narrative rules, I put that on hold. I've been still, working on the assets and the story and everything, but I wanted to wait for that to come out. And so yeah, definitely narrative campaigns, definitely lots of reviews, most likely a new How to Play series, all sorts of stuff over the summer for Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. So yeah, you'll definitely see. Right now, our Age of Sigmar coverage is 2 battle reports every single week, 1 for free and 1 for the Vault, which is already, that's a decent amount of Age of Sigmar coverage. 40K definitely gets more preferential treatment, which makes sense because it has more viewers and it gets more Vault signups, so that's just the way it is. You get the same thing, 2 battle reports on the Monday, but then typically the narrative campaigns have been 40K. And that's because they just get so many more Vault signups than the Age of Sigmar ones do. But I love doing the Age of Sigmar narrative campaigns. I'll actually, in some ways, enjoy them more. Although with the new Crusade system for 40K, I've been really enjoying basing stuff around that. So, that's made me really like that. And then in all the books, it's just the Crusade systems are super cool. And give me super cool ideas for narrative campaigns as well. So I'm really hoping, I'm crossing my fingers that 3rd edition, whatever they call it, will just be patterned after the Crusade system, or even more crunchy would be great. Just, yeah, even if they still have randomly generated armies, because that's the one thing I hate about Path to Glory. It's like, I don't want to randomly generate my army and somebody has 600 points and I have 400 points, or they have 1,000 and I have 600. Like, that's just dumb. Randomly generated is fine as long as you have somewhat equivalent points values. But I just really hope they add a lot of that depth. And I know it might be underwhelming at first, just like the 40K 9th edition one was, because what made the Crusade system, or what's making the Crusade system really good for 40K, is that as each codex comes out, they expand on it, and they give it its own twist according to the lore of that codex, which has been super cool. So yeah, you can definitely look forward to that. King Bob, Matthew, I hope all is well. Question about building units. When you are building units, how do you go about choosing loadouts? An example, as I'm currently building a Tyranid army, which has a lot of options. I'm working on warriors right now, and they are okay at shooting, a little better at melee. I feel like I would be cutting myself short if I go with 2 sets of Scything Talons to get the extra attack, as opposed to choosing to Devour and a set of Scything Talons to get some use out of them as they try to get across the board. I notice you guys spend a fair bit of time debating strategy and numbers, so I wanted you to ask your opinion. Okay, well, I'll tell you, friends, first and foremost, I'm not a tournament player, so I can't tell you the perfect current meta. But what I can tell you from years and years of experience is this is going to be a frustrating part of being a Tyranid player. And the reason for that is you have so many options, and they are very visibly different. Like if you have 2 sets of Scything Talons, but you'd rather have the gun, it so clearly doesn't have a gun. And if you have the gun and like Bone Swords, it so clearly does not have Scything Talons. And there are going to be a variety of different ways you want to play your warriors. And what's even worse, or better, depends how you look at it, is every time you get a chapter approved, or a new Tyranid Codex, or a new edition, it changes which ones are good. Like right now, I know double scything talons is great because they're dirt cheap. You can give them and you bring a big blob of 9 of them. You give them the adaptive physiology enhanced resilience, which lets them ignore AP -1 and -2. And then they go sit in an objective and maybe in cover, and they sit there with a 3-up save that ignores AP -1 and -2. 17 points a model, I think, is what it is for 3 wounds at toughness 4 with all those saves. Like, it's going to be hard to shake. They're not going to be very killy. They've got lots of little strength 4 attacks. Maybe with the right build your own high fleet, you can make those with some armor penetration, whatever. But so that's a really cool loadout. Another loadout I like is Scything Talon Death Spitter, and that's the Scything Talons are just there because they're free. The Death Spitter taking your 3 shots across the table, but Death Spitters aren't that great. Like it's just not that great. Or the same thing with the Bone Sword. So right now it's like double Scything Talons is the way to go, but just like 6 months ago that wouldn't have been the case, and 6 months from now that probably won't be the case anymore. So you have a couple options. One is you just do a lot of them. 2, and do variety. 2 is you magnetize them, which is what I ended up doing. It was a lot. I didn't do it myself, of course. I had a painter do it. There was like 420 magnets to magnetize a bunch of warriors to have all the different options, so that I future-proof them until they come out with new warrior kits with different options, and that'll then stop that. Who knows, right? And so that was my solution because I got tired of it. But obviously, I don't know if your hobby budget is the same as ours here. Obviously, it's a little different scale of economy. And so, or you just kind of accept the fact that you're going to be proxying a lot, and so you just give them whatever loadout looks cool, and then you just tell your opponent, this time I'm going to play them double Scything Talon. This time it's going to be Scything Talon Death Spitter, and you just accept the fact that there's just too many options to be able to properly represent exactly what you want to try that time. So yeah, but the good options right now is double Scything Talon. Fun options for me are Scything Talon Rending Claw or Bone Sword Death Spitter. And 1 in every 3 having a special heavy weapon like a Venom Cannon or a Barb Strangler. They're both good for different reasons, although I prefer the Venom Cannon. Devours are fine because they're cheaper, but I don't know, the Death Spitters kind of just do what Devours do, but slightly better and for not very much more expensive. But double Scything Talons with Adrenal Glands, and then the build your own high fleet where AP, or where Scything Talons get an AP, and then you do Pack Hunters where if you outnumber, you get another AP, because if you have 9 of them, you might actually outnumber some of the more elite things, and you're going in there with AP -2 Scything Talons, which re-roll. You'll get extra attack because you have 2 sets. You'll get to re-roll 1s because they're Scything Talons, and you're hitting on 3s usually. Throw Prime nearby, and they'll be hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, and Strength 4 at -2 AP. Even just -1 AP, that's still decent. But they're not going to be great. What they're going to be great at is tanking. Especially if you give them the enhanced resilience, adaptive physiology. So, yeah, that's where it is. Folks, Matthew, I hope you're doing well. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're all looking out for my well-being. This isn't the question, but I have started reading the Gotrek novels. And in them it mentions the sign of the hammer as being a gesture going from left, right, center, down over your heart. Left, right, center, down. Just mentioning this here as what the sign of the hammer is has been asked a few times. So it's like, so it's almost like the Catholic, like the sign of the cross thing, except it's similar idea, which doesn't surprise me because a lot of the 40K and Age of Sigmar stuff is derived. It's made in the UK, in England, and that's heavy Anglican, which is heavy background in Catholic stuff, Gothic, and I've been there and gone into some of the buildings, and it's like, holy crap! I can see why they chose this as kind of the look of 40K, because it is awe-inspiring and just overwhelming emotionally, and so and just huge, and so I can see why they would do that. So yeah, okay, so left, right, and center, down. So it looks like, so it's basically a T over the heart. Which hand do you do it with? Whatever. EP Jelly and Matthew, I thoroughly enjoyed the Wargaming Game Master series and wondered if you felt there was still more to explore in that discussion, or if it was more or less complete. Thanks. Oh, there's plenty more to explore. I just wasn't finding that many people were watching the show, and I also just was having a hard time continuing it because I had so many other projects on the go. So it was just one of those spaghetti tests where I'm like, oh, let's try this show, see how it works. And I'm just like, I'm not really enjoying it as much as I thought I would. And there's not nearly as many people watching it as I thought they would. So that just kind of died off. Smiling Kira. Hi, Matt. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Since you play Iron Jaws, Uruk, the most in Age of Sigmar, what is your opinion on the new Cruel Boys? Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm going to be claiming that army. There's been so many times the new armies come out, and I'm like, I want to play that. But then, like, Luca or Steve or Josh are super excited for it. And I'm like, okay, well, I want them to be excited, so let them take it. Like the Bone Reapers, I would have totally taken those. But Luca was just so excited. I'm like, okay, fine, you take the Bone Reapers. Because I was Tomb Kings before, and Bone Reapers, as much as they're not Tomb Kings, they're the new Tomb Kings, right? They're the bone constructs and all that kind of stuff. And so finally I saw this one, and I'm like, I think I'm going to pull rank, because Steve was interested in them too, and I'm like, no, I think I got to pull rank here and take them, because those look fantastic, and I'm excited for them. And I haven't been excited for an Age of Sigmar army for a while, and so yeah, I think I'm going to nab those and play them. So they look super cool. I personally think they look too similar to the Hobbit Uruk-hai. It felt weird looking at them, thin and properly standing Orc and Warhammer. But they're still great looking models, especially the Shaman getting a Gul'dan from World of Warcraft vibe from it. Yeah, they definitely don't follow your typical Orc look in Age of Sigmar. It could also be the way they painted them, the skin color being more like the Uruk-hai. That might be what's drawing that out as well. But I'm okay with that, though. And I'm hoping, from the little that I heard, because I didn't watch the whole thing, is that they're going to be their own faction, which kind of disappointed me. I was hoping they would basically be Bone Splitters. It's like replacing Bone Splitters or supplementing Bone Splitters. But from what I hear, they can be played with Orc war clans as well. So if that's the case, I'm even more excited, because a new faction is just going to be so limited in what you can play at first. It's going to take a long time. Like the Age of Sigmar has too many small factions. They've been combining books, thankfully, but they still need to put more work into that. And hopefully the third edition introduces some sort of ally system, which it probably won't, but a la Cities of Sigmar kind of style, but for other things. So yeah, I can't wait to play them. If Iron Jaws represent Gork brutality and the Cruel Boys represent Mork cunning, then what does the Bone Splitters represent? See, that's just it. I think Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters are both Gork brutality, because they just like to charge into battle head on. But you could say that the Bone Splitters are more Mork cunning, because they shed the armor for extra movement, and so they're more about like positioning and all that kind of stuff too. So I don't think it's as easy as just which one is which. Random Roy, hi Matthew. I lost an Armiger shoulder pad when I moved house. GW used to do mail order thing where you could order specific parts, showing my age there. Yeah, it's been a while ago. The only alternatives I have are buy a shoulder pad from eBay, like £10 minimum. Buy a whole Armiger, just not going to do that. 3D print the shoulder pad, highly viable option. I've never 3D printed a model, but I'm legitimately thinking about it now. What are your thoughts on the gray area boundaries for 3D printing whole models, parts, or custom stuff? Well, I can just tell you flat out that in most countries it's illegal to 3D print something that has a copyright. Now, it gets kind of a little more fuzzy when you're just doing it for personal use, but it doesn't really change the fact that it's illegal. It's more just how prosecutable it is. There are clear lines. If you 3D print stuff and sell it commercially, and it's just like it looks very similar or is just an exact copy of an existing thing with a copyright, whether it's in print or not, that is in most countries illegal. Now, I'm not a lawyer, of course, but trademark and copyright law is something I've had to look into a lot, obviously, for what we do here. So that is illegal. Now, whether it's when you do it for personal use, it's illegal, I'm not sure. There's also the gray area of, well, what if I just did the shoulder pad because I lost the shoulder pad? Well, ethically and morally, you're fine, right? There's a difference between ethics and law. There are some laws that are unethical, and there are some unethical things that are not illegal. So, like lying is arguably very unethical, depending on the context, but in most cases is not illegal. And then you can get into lots of topics about morality and right and wrong and belief systems and all that. So just put that aside for a second. Let's just try to look at it objectively, okay? So I would say, the line, here's a solid line, which is if you do 3D printing commercially, in other words, you're selling it, and they're obviously ripoffs, or they're so similar that people, without looking at them side by side, won't be able to really tell the difference, that's illegal. Now, if you're just doing components, like is it illegal to do a shoulder pad? I don't think so. Once again, I know there was that whole chapter house thing years ago that kind of they won some things and they lost some things for what was legal and illegal. So I think shoulder pads are okay, but if it's like an ultramarine shoulder pad, well, obviously no, because that symbol is copyright. But once again, if you're just doing it for yourself, then that's one thing. But if you're doing it and selling it, that's another thing. In your case, 3D printing one shoulder pad and putting it on, I'd have no issue with that. 3D printing an entirely new armature, even for personal use, I think is unethical. Whether you'll ever get fined for it, you'll probably never get in trouble for it, but I still think it's unethical. You know, this company has poured millions of dollars into making these miniatures, and then you're just like, yeah, I don't want to buy it, so I'm just going to 3D print my own. And that's just wrong. I'm just going to tell you, it's flat out wrong. Same thing as pirating software, all this kind of things. It's just wrong to decide that you're not going to buy something from a company because you think, for whatever reason, you think they're unethical, or you think the price is too high, or you can't afford it, and so you're like, oh, I'll just print my own. There's just something wrong about that. There's other gray areas, though, even though gray areas ethically. Like, what about Battlefleet Gothic models? This is something I had to look into recently. It's like, is it wrong to 3D print Battlefleet Gothic models? They don't sell them anymore, so you're not taking any money away from them, so you could argue ethically it's okay. But the thing is, though, it's one thing, are you just printing it for yourself, or is it one of those Etsy shops that sell 3D printed Battlefleet Gothic ones that are obviously just exactly the same as the Battlefleet Gothic models? That's illegal, I can tell you right off, but is it unethical? That's a hard thing because nobody's losing any money. Games Workshop isn't selling them anymore. So, but they still retain the copyright to it. And so copyright laws are weird. Sometimes they're dumb, but they're necessary, because if they didn't exist, Games Workshop wouldn't be a company. They wouldn't put millions of dollars into R&D and developing new models if everybody was just allowed to rip them off. Because and we see companies do this all the time, where one company will put all the effort into it, another company will come along and be like, okay, now that you've researched it all and made cool miniatures, we'll just copy that, and we get to profit from it. We'll sell it cheaper because we didn't have to put all that money into R&D, or maybe because ours is actually a slightly cheaper version of it. It's not as good, but it's still better because it's like half the price or a quarter of the price. So yeah, so it's a lot to get into, and I'm not going to try to get into more than that, because there's still parts of it that I wrestle with that I'm not quite sure how I feel about. And also because I don't know all the legality issues of it as well. I can tell you definitely what's illegal, and I can tell you definitely what's legal. But there's a large area in between that I am not sure about. And then when it comes to ethical, that's a little easier for me, because basically if you're just avoiding buying a miniature from a company, that's unethical. If you're doing something like, because this doesn't just talk about 3D printing, this talks about like aftermarket stuff. Like, what about Victoria Miniatures, who makes all these different Imperial Guard type models for different regiments? Well, some of them are just flat out Acadian models, and they even call them Acadian, and so you could argue that that's not good. But a lot of the other ones are, I think, are perfectly fine, because they're just people. And it can't copyright people in army outfits and different styles of that. So I'm sorry, there's just nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And so it's perfectly fine to buy those. You know, the ones that are Acadian, you could argue that one, but I'm not even going to bother getting into that. And so it goes through all of that, right? So are you buying it to avoid buying it from Games Workshop, and it looks just like the one from Games Workshop? Well, that's probably unethical and most likely illegal. Are you buying like an alternate thing that looks very different? Well, that's not illegal, and you can, whether you argue it's ethical or not, that's a different question. So, that's a heavy topic, and I've barely just scratched the surface right there, and there's a whole lot more to it. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take any of that as legal advice, please. Tyler Sharp. Hey Matt, hello from LA. I'm a new Tyranid player and I really want to get hands on a Demacaron and a Barb Scythe Hero Duel. Good luck right now. But everywhere I look, they're sold out. Do you have any sources where I could get one? Or maybe an idea how to kit bash one? I'm waiting for it too. I want another Barbed and Scythe Hero Duel. I got a couple Demacarons, so I'm okay with just the two I have. So I don't know why it's been so long since they've been out of stock. I thought at first they just got popular because their points dropped, but they're still not back in stock the last I checked, so I'm not sure what that means and what's going on with that. C.S. Nachuk. Hello, Matt. Greetings from Victoria Island. Could we get another Oath of Wrath campaign? I love seeing the knights on the table, and the campaign was excellent. Well, thank you. Probably eventually, especially if they get a new book with Crusade rules. That would definitely prompt me to do that. Beef Sandwich 28. Nat, first off, I hope you and the family are doing well. Can't wait for Ontario to open up once vaccination rates have risen, etc. I'll be moving on to a Dungeon Master role, it seems, as I feel like playing tabletop RPGs along with Warhammer, and of course, no one wants to be the DM. I get it, although I don't feel bad about that. I actually really like being the DM. That being said, do you have any tips for a newcomer? Do you find your inspiration just in source materials, or do you sit and write much like an author? Thanks for the countless hours of entertainment. Ooh, there is a wealth of information out there about for new Dungeon Masters. It can be very overwhelming at first. It depends what role-playing game you're getting into. See, I'm a minimal effort Dungeon Master at times, except when I'm feeling inspired. And what I mean by that is I'll play Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition because it's the most supported one out there. Not because it's the best one. It's not in any way and shape the best role-playing system out there. I have a lot of gripes with it, but I love it because there's a ton of resources out there. Both in the Wizards of the Coast stuff, there's lots of pre-made modules and source books, but also you have things like dmsguild.com where you just get tons of people making supplemental stuff. It's like a very popular computer game that has a ton of mods to it, and the game itself is okay, but the mods are what make it fantastic. And so that's how I feel about D&D. Also, it's really easy to learn, and so you can kind of get players in it pretty easily. I mainly run modules, and then I homebrew the crap out of the modules. So I change things all the time. But I always start with a module because I don't have time to homebrew something from scratch. And I don't actually enjoy going from scratch. It doesn't feel as well developed. If somebody else puts in a lot of the effort and makes the module, I feel like there's an existing world that I can grab and then do it. I'm not really good artistically at creating something that from nothing. I need something to start from, which is why I love getting inspirations for stories. Like I'll just rip it off from a book for a narrative campaign and then just modify the heck out of it until it's my own thing. And so yeah, it's that's what I do, and it saves me a lot of time. So if I were you, if you don't care about whether you use modules or not, because there's some dungeon masters out there who think that doing modules is really bad and everything should be homebrewed. I wholeheartely disagree. I'm not saying that they're wrong homebrewing and they should be doing modules. I'm just saying that it's a freaking game. If whatever is fun, do it. Like there's no right. There's a lot of heated debates out there about aspects of the game and what's the right and wrong way to do things. It's like, what the heck? This is a game, guys. Like if you're having fun, you're doing it a fine way. Like maybe you can find ways to do it even better. But if you're spending your life refining and figuring out how to be a better dungeon master, and it's like bringing you stress and anxiety, then it's just like, well, then why are you doing it? It should be fun. Now, it can be stressful sometimes because there's a lot put on you, but that doesn't mean the hobby overall is something that you don't enjoy. So there's a difference between those two. There are time crunches every once in a while to get stuff done, but I really enjoy developing the overall campaign. So I'll use modules to kind of build the campaign, but then I have my own story to it. So if I were you, and if you have a group of people interested in playing Dungeons & Dragons, grab the starter set and play Lost Mines of Phandelver. It's a fantastic adventure. It has all the aspects that you need to introduce people to D&D, and to role-playing for that matter. And it's easy to run as a DM, and it's just fantastic. So you do the D&D starter set, Lost Mines of Phandelver. Don't get any other resources. Just do that module for your first thing, and you'll love it. You'll have a good time. At least I think you will. And then kind of just dive into it and like read stuff on Reddit. And there's a D&D DMs group that I'm in on Facebook, and I followed it just so, and occasionally I post to it, but usually it's just so I can read what everybody else is talking about. It's often dumb discussions about things but there's so much inspiration in there as well. So yeah, you just have to kind of immerse yourself in it. Understand the fact that there's a million things out there for it, and so it can be overwhelming. So just start simple. Grab a starter module. If you're playing another role-playing game, most role-playing games will have a starter module. Just start with that. Just play a starter module. Even if you don't finish it, just start with it, get a certain amount through it, and then be like, okay, yeah, this is cool. I get the system now. Now I want to do my own thing. But just start simple. Otherwise, you might not start at all. Thanks for the countless hours of entertainment. Well, thank you, Beef Sandwich 28. Jester, hi Matt. Any chance of return of reprise of a Necromunda campaign? I would love some more Necromunda content. I want to. It's just there's a lot of other stuff I'm working on right now. So is there a chance? Definitely. I have no plans currently though. More Draka. Hello Matt. As always, thank you guys for the amazing content you guys produce. I have a quick question today. Will we see the Custodies in the campaign? After the Corn Orcs, I mean, and the Dark Angels finished it. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, that story, I have every intent to bring the Custodies into that. Miso. Matt, loving the new Battlefleet Gothic vids and your hobbying, but have you ever played Star Wars Armada? I've played Star Wars X-Wing, and we played Star Wars Armada on the channel, and I saw it, but I haven't personally played it. It's not in the normal wheelhouse of what you play, but it's possibly the best Starship game ever made, and has interesting mechanics like you shoot first, then move. A lot better than X-Wing. Do you think you could try it? Even off camera, maybe? I'll be honest, I'm not interested, so probably not. But that doesn't mean in the future we won't cover it, because, you never know. There's a lot of things you might be able to transfer to narrative campaigns. What do you think about the recent announcement of the Warhammer subscription service? Are you worried it will affect mini wargaming at all? I live on a small island. Affect us how? You mean you're worried that people will sign up for that and not the Vault? I'm not worried about that at all. Not because everybody loves us so much. It's more like people have multiple subscriptions to things. Like they'll have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, like Disney Plus. People have multiple subscriptions, and our subscription service is not expensive. So if you cancel because of the price, it's probably because you don't really watch the videos. And I get that. If you're not watching the videos and you don't want to support us, then you cancel, right? But no, I'm not worried about that at all. Especially because it's not competing content, it's animations, right? I live on a small island, and when the local schools started to offer after-school activities, it damaged a lot of independent businesses that had sprung up to cater for kids after school. It was a reminder of how powerful big business the state can be. I will still stay a Vault member, whatever, though. Yeah, see, like I said, it's not a competitor, because what they're offering is not something we offer. So it's not like people are like, oh, I'm not going to watch battle reports anymore now that I can watch an animation every week or two. I don't know how many they're coming out with. It's not clear. I know that they have a big list, but is it like one a month, one every week, one every other week? I can't imagine it's going to be tons and tons and tons of them all the time, and they're going to be short. So it's like, okay, cool, I just watched that cool 15-minute, 20-minute animation, and now I've got tons of hobby time to fill. So I still need to go and watch my mini wargaming. And the same thing with other YouTube channels too. Like there's a ton of other YouTube channels, and they certainly are getting lots of views, especially collectively. And collectively, they're getting more views than us. If you put all those channels together, they get way more views than we do. And maybe some of that hurts us, but we've still been growing for our Vault members over the past while. So if a restaurant opens up next to another restaurant, if in a zero-sum game you say that the restaurant's going to lose business, but in the real world, the restaurant might actually gain business because it draws more people to that area. So same idea. Finally, I know Dave does the social media for the business. Does he ever find it stressful ever at all? Oh, of course, but he also loves it. He loves that stuff to bits. Seems that you have to post so much. It fries the brain. I feel bad for Dave sometimes, as it must take a lot of creative energy that he could be putting into more movies or troll books. Best dude. He loves it though. He loves that aspect of it, and I don't, so it's nice that he's taking care of that. Yeah, we have different tastes and things that we like, which is why we work so well together. Demon666, nice name. Matt, I love all your narrative campaigns. Oh, by the way, just let me quickly check how far we are in. Oh, we're doing fine. The Fate of Fayoum and Snegabog Screed were what made me sign up to the Vault Mini years ago. That is a while ago. I actually recently went back and watched them again. I was wondering if you would ever like to revisit Overlord Kanum or carry on the Blood Angel story. He left it on a cliffhanger with the Blood Angel captain escaping from Astorath. I've been waiting years to see what happened to him. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever continue that story. Overlord Kanum might make a reprisal because he's so cool. But yeah, I'm not sure. Thesis, Matt, I love y'all's passionate Battlefleet Gothic content and the other great Warhammer content. Well, thank you. My question is, if someone was to let you borrow the models, would y'all try out Victory at Sea, a historical World War II naval combat game? Probably not, but maybe yeah, you have to get a couple people here super excited for something. And it's not usually about needing to borrow models, because we can afford to buy the models. It's just, well, we're busy. We filmed tons already, and so fitting in these other things that may not get a lot of signups, we're not quite sure, right? And so yeah, I doubt it. There's so many games out there, and we'd love to be able to give them coverage and stuff, but that's just not. We're just a small business. We're just a handful of guys making content, and that's really all there is to it. It's just we're not a large corporation. We're not a large business. We're able to do all this because of you guys, because of our Vault members, and so yeah. So I doubt it. P.S. Huge fan of the bolt action bat reps and would love to see more historical genre games, even if it's only a few videos. Another game that is fun and maybe you or someone else might like is called The Baron's War, a small unit-sized medieval skirmish game that takes place in 1215 to 1217 English Civil War, Robin Hood, King John time period.
I think it's worth taking a look at, even if it does not make it on Mini Wargaming. Thank you, stay safe, and all is well. Yeah, my original dream for Mini Wargaming was to grow until we had like 20 or 30 content producers, and we, the majority of them are covering the 40K and Age of Sigmar and the big stuff, but then we had so many more that we could get that long tail. But after all these years, I've realized, I'm like, that long tail is just too small, that the amount of views out there for all these small games is just not big. And I've observed other channels who cover a lot of other games, and they just don't grow. Their views are not getting bigger. It's hard to build an audience around these small games. It's miniature wargaming. The industry is a small industry. Like Games Workshop is the biggest company in it, and it's not that big a company. You might think, oh, sure, it's huge. Look at it. It's like, it is 200 million, 300 million pounds a year. Like one movie makes more than that. One computer game makes more than that. Like. It's ridiculous how small this market actually is. And so when you're taking a small piece of an already small market, there's not much money to be made there. That's fine for a ma and pa shop opening up and selling some miniatures and just making a living. That's fine. But for us who have to, we're taking a portion of it. Like 40K, we're not going to have every 40K player watching our stuff. It's just never going to happen. Heck, Games Workshop's Warhammer channel is not even going to have every 40K player. And so we're taking a portion of a small market. And so if we then say, now let's specialize even more, it's just not going to work. And we'd love for it to work. And maybe in 10 years from now, if we do manage to grow more and have more employees, there will be kind of a place, but it'll always be a small percentage of our content. Even if it does become weekly, but then, we're just putting out so many other videos. So I just don't see that happening. I originally thought that was kind of the goal of Mini Wargaming, but the more I've learned about this industry, the more I realize how small it is. So it's about more like really carving out your corner in this small market and working with what you do well and trying to expand on that. And that does mean that we do lots of Games Workshop content. Games Workshop doesn't pay us to do this. Some people are like, you sell out to Games Workshop. It's like, I'm sorry, I want to feed my kids. I want to. That's why I'm here. I love this hobby. I love Warhammer. I love miniature wargaming. But in the end, if this wasn't making me money, we'd shut down the business and I'd go do something else. Whether it's web development or programming or something to do with music or who knows what. But I wouldn't do this. Like, we do this because we have families to feed, or we have ourselves to feed in some cases. Oh, everybody has themselves to feed, but you know what I mean. Like, that's why we're here. Thankfully, we also get to make money by doing something that we're passionate about. So that's an extra bonus, but that's not a requirement for people's jobs. You don't have to like what you do. You need to be good at what you do. You need to work hard at what you do. You need to always be trying to improve your skill set so you can improve, not because everybody needs to be rich, but because we all need to be active and industrial and try to improve ourselves and the world around us, whatever we can do. End speech. GBC343. Hi, Matt. I hope you are well. Wow. Yes, I am. Thank you. I was wondering if you had any opinion on that controversy regarding the Cursed City box set and other box sets running out quite quickly. Any comments regarding these? Controversies, it's funny that there's controversy. I think we're just passionate in this hobby. People being ticked off, it's because they want a product. GW did a good job selling the product to them, and now they can't get it, and they're mad. The end. It's just a mistake on Games Workshop's part. I don't think there was any malintent. I don't think they purposely throttled it to create more demand. I don't think any of that happened. I think they just underestimated how much people would want it. I have no idea what their plans are in the future for it, and hopefully with the new 3rd edition box set coming out, we won't have the same issue, but we shall see. So controversy, it's just so funny there's controversy. People got really upset because they wanted it so much. But other than that, there's no reason to be upset. It's like the company's like, hey, we're all out, we're sorry. It's like, oh, controversy, they're all out of a product I don't need, but I really want. The end. So I think it's a little silly to get super upset. To be disappointed makes total sense. It's a product you want, you can be disappointed. But to then be like, I hate Games Workshop because they ran out of this product. Sorry, that's just foolish and silly. Also, regarding the upcoming rumors, Age of Sigmar 3rd edition and apparently CA, and rules that allow units to interact in your opponent's turn. CA. And apparently CA. Chapter approved. and rules that allow units to interact in your opponent's turn. Any guesses on what that could be? Well, we already have some of that, like Overwatch, right? Or heroically intervening. So I have no guesses on what that could be. I'm sorry. And do you think that may be based to an extent on the concept of alternate activation? Heck no. Games Workshop is not going to have alternate activation in Age of Sigmar and 40k. Never. It's too big a game to really do it effectively. Also, new orc units apparently to Lord of the Rings, according to some people. Yay or nay? LOL. I've already talked about that. I love them. Groxex Ghost Lawyer. Hey Matt, just joined the vault recently and have loved it ever since. Well, thank you so much for your support, and I'm glad that you like it. Been loving both the narrative and regular battle reports. I have a few questions that only you could answer. First, if there was one thing you could change about Genes to their Cults, what would it be? A new codex with awesome Crusade rules. Even if you left them crappy, as long as you give me super awesome Crusade rules, I'll be happy enough. If you said one thing, right? Second, how did you come up with some of the narrative campaign ideas? Oh, you could ask the same question to an author writing books and stuff. It's just wherever inspiration happens to come. It could be watching a movie, it gives me an idea. It could be reading a book, it gives me an idea. It could just be out for a walk and I get an idea. In the shower and I get an idea. Somebody else talks about something, I get an idea. There's just ideas come from a million different places. And whichever ones excite me and somebody else, that's usually what I do a narrative campaign based off of. Donnie777, hi Matt, any spoilers for your great work custom chapter? I'm a big fan of the size and was really excited when I heard you were making an army. Anything you could show or explain more on would be amazing. For the Ghost of Satha, Monday, 2 battle reports, one in the vault, one for free, one in the vault, featuring those Space Marines will be there. They look awesome. So you can check that out on Monday. Donnie, hi Matt, are the COVID restrictions for Canada becoming more relaxed for you guys? Hopefully soon. There's a phase thing over the summer that'll hopefully make it better for Ontario, but I don't know. I'm not sure. There's the whole discussion there that I'm not going to get into. Big Mikey, second question, sorry. Oh yeah, asking questions, I'm going to sit and talk. You should be sorry about that. General thoughts on the new Age of Sigmar 3rd edition rules and the spells moving every hero phase, reactive stratagems, etc. I haven't actually been following that closely because I've been far too busy with everything else that we've been doing here. So not very many thoughts. I look forward to trying it all out. I'm disappointed they still have the random turn mechanic. We'll try it out and hopefully it'll be good. And hopefully they'll have fixed it with whatever they did to fix it. And we'll just wait and see. Okay. Give me a second. Got Soup 24. Matt, hope all is well with you, the crew, and your family. Relatively recent member. Well, thank you. And I've really enjoyed the Hunting the Fallen narrative campaign. Awesome. I'm glad you like that. You left a comment at the end of the video regarding ideas for the next. Given that you're coming off the tail end of a story with the definitely not traitor Dark Angels, have you considered bringing in a second player at the Space Wolf Force? Perhaps a chance encounter during the chaplain's investigations that, as usual, result in bad blood. Could be a competitive campaign between the players or a mix, and you can continue the narrative of the sector from the last 2 campaigns, the Wolves investigating what the Dark Angels are up to, and why the planet they just left is on fire. Regardless of what you think of next, keep up the great work and have fun. Yeah, that's a great idea. Whether that'll be in a narrative campaign, I can't say. You planted a seed. In 6 months, I'm gonna be like, oh, this is a really cool idea, and forget totally where I got it from. So if you see me do that in the future, you can put a comment saying, hey, I gave him that idea. Big Mikey's asking the same question about the orcs. I'm definitely excited for them. Don Raccoon, Matt, first, thank you for everything you guys do. Well, thank you. Secondly, what do you think of the idea of there being an army in Age of Sigmar that could be played in multiple Grand Alliances? We were just having this discussion yesterday, actually, and I think that the Grand Alliances don't really work because they're too rigid. You give the example here of Beasts of Chaos because they're kind of destruction as well as chaos. Like in the old Warhammer Fantasy, wasn't it just destruction and order? Wasn't that like the two things? Like, why can't orcs worship chaos? Like, why can't some undead work for order? Why does all undead have to be evil? If you read some of the novels, not all the undead are evil. And so, yeah, there's revered undead that come up and protect people. Like, there should be a city of Sigmar that lets you ally and give the cities of Sigmar keyword to some undead things, especially Night Haunt or skeletons, things like that. Like, not like necessarily the vampires and necromancers, but other stuff. So yeah, I kind of think that they pigeonholed themselves by having the Grand Alliances. They should have just never had that concept. And instead, like, you can still have the keywords order and chaos and destruction and death. But why not have the Beast of Chaos have the destruction and chaos keywords, right? Like, is that really going to break your game? So, anyway. Yeah, I think they should definitely consider all that. Pellinor, hey Matt, hope you're all doing well. Have you ever done or considered a narrative campaign from the aspect of the bad guy's point of view? Yeah, I just did a Dark Angels one. What are you talking about, man? They just nuked a planet. Spoilers. Now, I know that's not what you mean. Maybe a bunch of orcs or ogres out on a quest. 40k orcs or gene stealers have been set on a quest journey by the boss. Yeah, definitely. We have plans for an orcs campaign. We have plans for a death campaign where the protagonists are people I'd considered more bad than good. I had plans for a Gene Stealer Cult campaign, but we just have so much else going on. I haven't really gotten to that one yet. NL, hey Matt, if this reaches you from YouTube, first off, I would like to thank all you guys for bringing me into the hobby. You're welcome. I look forward to my first big job in a week, and I will finally have enough to be by the side to become a Vault member and get something back for all the great content during these last 2 years. Well, thank you so much. My question is, what would you say about a really tongue-in-cheek, weird narrative Age of Sigmar series where the players are led by an unreliable narrator and you get full choice to really throw out all the fun and wacky challenges at the guys, something inspired by the Gloomspite Gitz lore you've read, who incidentally, with the Sons of Behemoth, are my favorite factions. Much love from sunny Sweden. That's kind of a funny idea, actually. I might snag some of those ideas and put them into the campaigns, even if the whole campaign's not based around that. Jake Dog. You a good boy, get Vault membership. I one day hopes I get one, but I just got a dog, so don't earn enough monies right now. Maybe when I get a pay raise. It's okay. A name that I can't pronounce because it's all Russian, I think it's Russian letters. Hey Matt, happy to see some BFG content on the channel. Hopefully it is getting the views and Vault signups it deserves. I was wondering if you could tell us the things you love about the game and what you would rather see change in a possibly, albeit unlikely, future edition. Thanks in advance. I've only played a couple games, 4 games actually, so I don't think I can really speak on that yet. I've been enjoying every aspect of it, so once I've played it a lot longer, I might be able to be like, okay, here's the things that have just kind of started to annoy me. I don't like this part or this aspect. But so far, I got nothing like that. I've just been enjoying it. Chase Lebenguth. Howdy, based on today's notes on monsters and heroes and Broken Realms major overhauls of some War Scrolls, do you think they will rework Star Drakes? I sure hope so, because they suck right now. If so, what would you like to see? What do you think of the beard armor on the new Stormcast Lord Imperator and the Vindicator Prime? Thoughts on Stabgrot? I love all the models, by the way. So that's what I think about all of that. The thing with monsters overall, and Star Drakes included, it's tough because you're playing a game where you don't have strength versus toughness, right? So you just go straight up to a wound mechanic. And so if I wound on a 4+, that wounds a grot the same as much as it wounds a monster. And so you have to represent toughness some other way, which is typically in your saving throws a number of wounds, right? But the problem with that is a lot of crap units are getting better and better saves. Like, I always go back to the Gloomspite Gitz grots. With their shields, they've got a 5-up save. Like, they have no right having a 5-up save. And 4-up if they have a banner against shooting. 4-up save. Like, there's monster, like, Liberators walk around with a 4-up save. Monsters can walk around with a 4-up save. Like, it's a weird balancing act because I don't want to see monsters walking around. I don't like that. The 2-up saves in Age of Sigmar. But it's tough. And on top of that, monsters bracket. So the more you hurt them, but then so does a unit. If I kill half the unit, now there's half as many models to hold objectives and to do damage. And so it's a tough balancing act. It'll be interesting to see what they introduce to try to kind of approach that. But if there's a fine line. If they start introducing too many mechanics, then they're just basically admitting they need a strength versus toughness. Like if they say, for example, and I don't think they're doing this, if they said, if you're not a monster and you're attacking a monster, you get -1 to wound. Then you're just admitting they have a higher toughness and your strength is lower. And if you are a monster against a monster, then it's not -1 to wound. And maybe a monster gets +1 to wound against non-monsters. Like, so now you're just admitting there's a strength for toughness mechanic. You've just hidden it behind it, which actually makes it, if you add too many of those kind of things, way more complicated than a strength versus toughness mechanic. Whereas the nice thing about the way it is right now in Age of Sigmar is that it's not complicated. It's what do I hit on 3s? What do I wound on 3s? I don't have to look at your War Scroll. I know what I got to roll. I don't have to try to figure all that out. Now, it's not hard. You play if anybody plays 40k, I don't think people are going to be like, wow, strength versus toughness mechanic is really hard to get into and figure out. It's not. And so they're both good. They both have their merit. And so I think there's a fine line there. Because you can always tweak things by points, but that doesn't always solve everything, right? So Star Drakes, it's just simple. They just need more hitting power. And that'll make them worth their points. That's all you really need. It's just a few more attacks that do more damage, and the end. Maybe make sure they have more rend on these big monsters, so they can punch through the armor of small units. Because rend versus save is kind of the strength versus toughness of Age of Sigmar. Even though I know that exists in 40k as well, that just means they have two ways to try to see how well they can kill something. Strength and AP. The one goes against toughness and the other one goes against saving throws. Thank you very much for all your questions. Don't forget, next week is Josh's turn, so you can leave your questions below for him, whether on our site or on YouTube. We'll check them both. And as always, happy wargaming.